Dzień dobry, witam bardzo serdecznie w kolejnym odcinku programu English Breakfast Extra. Dzisiaj jest też ekstra gość, bo mój gość swojego czasu był najdrożej sprzedanym piłkarzem, najdroższym transferem w Anglii, kiedy przenosił się z Nottingham Forest do Liverpoolu. Stan Collymore jest waszym i moim gościem. Stan,
nice Good to see you. Thank you for having me.
I will start from something which I've heard from Michael Calvin. You know this
Yes,
guy,
Mike Calvin, yeah.
And Mike Calvin told me really fantastic story about one scout who was on the game in Stafford Rangers.
That's right.
And there was a row of scouts. They were waiting for the beginning of the game, and one of them suddenly just went out from the stadium. And the rest of them, they were like, what is he doing? And he saw you during the warm-up, your movement, your skills with the ball. This is really lovely story.
He didn't need to watch the game.
He
just left.
He didn't need to watch the game, and he probably phoned to Crystal Palace just to take you.
Yeah. I
remember it?
His first name was John, and I'm just trying to think of the surname now. But we kept in touch for quite a long time. He recommended me to Crystal Palace. I mean, before Crystal Palace, I was an apprentice at Wolves, which have now, of course, gone back up to the Premier League this season. But it didn't quite happen for me. So the first real football experience as a professional came when I was 19 at Crystal Palace. Yeah, 19 years of age, so it was 1990. Steve Coppell was the manager. Of course, Manchester United legend. They had Ian Wright up front, Mark Bright, John Solarco, Gareth Southgate was one of my teammates in the youth team, in the reserves. And that team finished third in the last season of the old First Division, so before the season before the Premier League started. So it was a very good team and a very good football education for me, particularly to watch the likes of Ian Wright.
I'm wondering, what did you do during the warm-up?
I don't know, I can't remember. Usually in a warm-up I'd be just running up and down, and maybe some shooting drills I was good at, I don't know, but it's fantastic. I mean, scouts are very important, obviously, because they go every game. They come and watch a game, every game, for 10, 15, 20 games. But I think that there are scouts that if you've been watching the game for long enough, you can see little things. And obviously he did, so I have to thank him for that, otherwise I probably wouldn't be here now.
Okay. Everybody thinks I underachieved as a footballer. I didn't underachieve, I overachieved. I had a great career. Still agree with your own words?
Yeah, I do, and the reason why that is because I don't have other people's projections of their thoughts of me on me. As a child, I grew up in a one-parent family in a town where nobody came to watch junior football, no scouts. Now you'd have 20 scouts at every game. I never once had a scout come to watch me, because the town that I still live in was north of West Brom, Wolves, Villa, Birmingham City, and just south of Stoke, Manchester, Liverpool. So there's this vacuum.
And you supported Aston Villa?
Supported Aston Villa as a kid, still do. So, so for me, my aims as a kid were, could I be a professional footballer? Could I play for Aston Villa? And could I play for my country? I did all of those things. So if an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old says, I want to play for England, I want to play for Aston Villa, and I want to play professional football for 15 years, that's a success. You've hit every target.
Made it.
The problem is, and I understand it, is because of the way that I played at my very best was very, very good, that people rightly said that wasn't consistent all the way through my career. Should have won a lot of trophies, a lot more England caps. So I accept that. But that's other people's expectations, that's not mine. My expectation was, could I be a professional footballer? I played for the 3 clubs that when I was a kid, I mean, imagine this.
Big club. Nottingham
Forest, Liverpool and Aston Villa won 6 consecutive European Cups between them. So imagine being an 11-year-old now, and whichever teams win the 6 consecutive, which would probably be Barcelona, Real Madrid, maybe throw in Man United, Chelsea. Imagine playing for those three clubs in 10 years' time and you're 11. That's what
For me, it's okay, to be honest with you.
Yeah, precisely. But I do understand people's criticisms, because I think that I would have liked to have done a lot more. And I think a lot of fans at clubs that I played for would have liked me to do a lot more. But I think that if you talk to any professional footballer, particularly one that's had a career anything over 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, 20 years, it's a very, very difficult sport to succeed in. So yes, I would have liked to have done more, but I enjoyed my time.
John Gregory, your former manager, told one day he had everything Thierry Henry has got and more. So why only 3 caps in English nationality?
Well, I think that the England situation was very interesting, because at the time, so these were the English strikers that I was competing with, and I thought I was very different to all of them. So there was Ian Wright, myself, Robbie Fowler, Andy Cole, Nick Barmby, Alan Shearer, Teddy Sheringham, Dion Dublin, Chris Sutton, all competing for a.
It wasn't only Harry Kane.
No, but you think to yourself, well, if I was playing now, I'd be on 40, 50, but it doesn't work like that. There are many, many players. I mean, think of the poor guy that plays in Lionel Messi's position or Cristiano Ronaldo's position for Portugal or for Argentina. For me, to be, and all of those guys were scoring 25 plus goals a season for their clubs. Alan Shearer was always given the benefit of the doubt, because I think that Terry Venables and Glenn Hoddle, the two managers that managed him most, wanted a big classic number 9 and have somebody to play around him. And that position was up for grabs, and eventually it was Teddy Sheringham that did complement him very well. But I think that if it would have been an England strikers pool with Jamie Vardy, with Harry Kane, no disrespect to those guys, but I would have been very confident of more England caps.
I was watching your goals yesterday, especially from Nottingham Forest. You're really fast and really strong. It was your big advantage on the pitch, I think.
Yeah, I think that what I like to do, I mean, my idols as a player when I was a kid growing up, I was never a striker. I always liked to play in midfield, and I was much too lazy to be a midfielder. And somebody said one day,
operate some deeper, yeah?
Yeah, you've got to play up front. You're big, you're growing. I was 14, 15. You're strong, you're tall.
You can fight in the air.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't so good in the air, actually, for my height, particularly around it in English football when everything was about height and heading the ball. But my style was dictated because my heroes were Zico, Michel Platini, players like Boniek.
Like technical football.
But moved well with the ball, that ran with the ball. So it wasn't just a case of run it and just try and barge people out the way. I tried to do it with the left foot, I tried to do it with the right foot. So my style was the absolute opposite of players like Robbie Fowler that I played with, Shearer for England, and Ian Wright. And I learned a lot from them. I cherry-picked little bits from them all. But my style predominantly was to pick the ball up and to run with it and to attack defences. That's what I love to do.
You scored 41 league goals for Forest, and it was really hard time for the club because they were trying to replace the
irreplaceable, basically.
Brian Clough.
Yeah,
Brian Clough after 18 years.
How do you? I mean, people talk about Arsene Wenger being replaced by, of course, Unai Emery over recent days. But Brian Clough went into a club that was when people say it was a small club, it actually wasn't. Nottingham Forest is the third oldest English club of them all. Notts County is the oldest.
It won European Cup, so.
I know, but the club for many years was a big city club that just hadn't done anything. In walks this guy and says, "Right, don't worry, I'm here, I've got it." And he wins. He takes them from the second division to the first division. Wins the first division in his first season. The first year they were in the European Cup, it wasn't seeded like it is now. They played Liverpool, the defending champions, in the first game, beat them home and away, win the European Cup and then win it again. So when he left, How do you follow that?
It was big.
This
big
wasn't
hole, yeah?
this wasn't Arsene Wenger leaving a club with 5 or 6 FA Cups in the last 10 years. This was a guy that completely revolutionised and changed a club. So I went there when they were relegated. We got promoted in the first season, scored a lot of goals, finished 3rd in the Premier League, which is still the record for a promoted team. Playing in the style that Brian Clough particularly loved to play, which was fast attacking, counter-attacking football. So I was very, very proud of that. My only one regret was not playing for Brian Clough because he left the season before I came.
I saw the movie, very nice. I believe in miracles.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And it is a miracle. It's a modern football miracle. I mean, up until somebody told me the statistic, I had to do a debate. So I was debating on behalf of the Premier League. Steve McManaman was debating on behalf of La Liga, Clarence Seedorf, the Dutch League, and Didi Hamann. And it was a proper debate in an auditorium. And we had to provide the most persuasive argument that which country had offered the European Cup the most. This was 4 or 5 years ago. And at that point, you know, when Brian Clough left Nottingham Forest had won more European Cups than Barcelona. That's how much of a big deal it was. So it was a fantastic experience. I loved being at Forest. I don't think I could have gone higher with them, having finished 3rd. So obviously then the big move, which is now the one where wherever I go in the world, you'll get Liverpool fans tapping you on the back, is Liverpool.
Sir Alex Ferguson had a choice, you or Andy Cole, transfer to Manchester United. He was looking for someone who replaced Mark Hughes, and he chose Andy Cole, as we know. Do you regret it?
No, I mean, I remember Sir Alex Ferguson calling the Nottingham Forest secretary, and I know that Frank Clark, the man that took over from Brian Clough, said, "Don't answer the call." And then there was a famous phone call. Kevin Keegan and Sir Alex Ferguson were speaking on the phone, and it was about Keith Gillespie. Keith Gillespie was supposed to be going from Manchester United to Newcastle. And Sir Alex Ferguson, in his own words, in his own book, said, right, I needed a striker, I'd called Forest, nothing happening. Andy Cole, it was almost impossible at that point for him, the thought of him going anywhere, scored a lot of goals. He said, so I thought I'd ask Keegan, just cheekily, what about Andy Cole? And it went quiet. And he said, I knew then I had a chance. So he put a bid in and Kevin Keegan accepted it. And the Geordies in Newcastle went mad. Kevin Keegan had to go onto the stairs of the club and say, trust me or I'll go. Andy Cole went on with Dwight Yorke, another player that I know very well because I played with him at Aston Villa. They had a fantastic partnership. But actually, and again, this is the difference between winning something and not. The Cole-Yorke strike partnership over the same period as myself and Robbie Fowler and I scored more goals. They just won a treble, and we didn't, which is why people think Yorke and Cole were the better option. We actually did score more goals, Robbie and I, but Dwight and Andy were a fantastic partnership that came away with the trophies.
Liverpool paid for you £8.5 million, and it was the biggest transfer in England. Now this money sounds really funny.
Yeah, but the British transfer record now would be
average player from Championship.
Yeah, less than. I mean, Aston Villa bought, I think, 2 players, my club, Conor Hourihane and one of the other players, 15 million each. Those are 2 players that have never played in the Premier League that had half a good season each in the Championship.
Was it a heavy price for you?
Yeah, it was. I don't think it was so much the price, it was the fact that Liverpool's last league title, now it's been 30 years, it was only 4 years before, 5 years before. So I was expected to come in and be the difference. Now clubs don't really do that with players. They don't just buy one player that comes in and is the difference. They'll buy 4 or 5. So Pogba at Manchester United would have 3 or 4 other players that Jose Mourinho would want to put around him. But I was bought as the difference. So that was a little bit difficult at times. But over the 2 years, I mean, Robbie Fowler, if you ask him having played with Rush, having played with Michael Owen, having played with Mark Viduka at Leeds, having played with other players, his favourite strike partner was me. So, and
That
mine
was my
his.
next question about the partnership with Robbie Fowler on the pitch and off the pitch.
Off the pitch, he says there wasn't a problem. I don't think there was a problem with us off the pitch. We were just very different people. We played football together, crossed the white line, scored goals. He went one way and I went the other way. I think a lot of people saw that as we didn't necessarily get on. I think there were times when on the pitch we didn't necessarily speak, but the sporting partnership we had was fantastic. I mean, I think it was 102 goals between us in 2 seasons, and that was before they Opta, every stat was given as well. There were lots of assists between him and me and him, and also Steve McManaman. So in terms of the front part of that Liverpool team, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. As good as Manchester United's. We had problems further back, midfield, defence. That's not heaping all the problems on them, but the difference between particularly the Manchester United back four of Bruce, Pallister, Irwin, guys like this, Gary Neville, Phil Neville that came into the teams, and the Liverpool one, that was where the big difference was.
You wrote a book, Tackling My Demons,
yes.
Yeah? And in 1999 you were talking about your experience with depression for the first time. You also supported the charity, people with depression. Do you think it's still a big problem in professional football in Premier League?
I did an interview about a week ago with Clark Carlisle, who played for Burnley, QPR, mostly in the lower leagues, but he did play in the Premier League. And it was quite a harrowing interview because he tried to take his own life. Robert Enke took his own life.
The most tragic history.
Incredible. And I think that in the UK, they say 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 people at some stage in their life will struggle with a mental health issue. And I think that's just the same in football. I think that what happens in football, because everybody, the classic line I always used to get to me was, what have you got to be unhappy about? You're playing football, you're playing for Liverpool, life is great. What is there to be unhappy? And it's not unhappiness, it's an illness. It would be absurd for somebody to come to me and blow my kneecaps out and say, oh, you can go back on the pitch, you play for Liverpool, there's nothing. It was very difficult 20 years ago to distinguish between physical and mental health. Now we have a lot of information around the world and things have changed massively. But there are still stories. I think there's a guy, David Cox, plays for, I think it was Motherwell, and he had a lot of criticism in the dressing room when he came out. So that's 20 years after I spoke out about mental health issues. I think from my perspective, whether you're a footballer, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a cameraman, whether you're a gaffer of a putting up rigs for boxing or concerts, speak out and get help, because for me, I nearly left it too late, and for players like Robert Enke, they did leave it too late.
What was the best game in your career?
Most people say Liverpool-Newcastle, which was the first Liverpool-Newcastle, because it happened again the year later. Everything that is good, even to this day, about Premier League football happened in that game. 2 sets of players that attacked each other. 2 sets of players that played the ball not in a classic English style of playing it up to the front man.
Direct ball, yeah.
Everything was
Kick and run.
everything was intricate. Ginola, Asprilla, Ferdinand, Fowler, McManaman, myself, and to score a last-second goal in front of the Kop. It's a dream, isn't it?
It's also the best goal, probably, yeah?
Not the best goal I scored. It wouldn't have got.
Most important?
At the time, because we were chasing the title.
Remember,
there was one that I scored for Villa as well. We were 2-1 down against Atletico Madrid at Villa Park in a UEFA Cup quarter-final, and that was an important goal. But I think the most famous goal, because of what if you're young now, you would only look at it as a great game. But at the time, basically, by winning that game, we handed Manchester United the title and stopped Newcastle winning the title. So that was a big story at the time, with a sub-story of what a fantastic game.
What was better, to score a first goal in your career or to have a fast sex in fast car with Sharon Stone? With Sharon Stone in basic
Well, my
instinct.
first goal in...
You regret it wasn't first part because she was younger probably, yeah?
I think she was...
She was
crikey,
more than
this was
40.
2004, so she'd have probably been my age now, so I'm 47.
She was 41 probably.
She was 41?
During
so
filming,
she was looking well.
But you ended in Thames River, yeah?
Yes,
with a car.
I know. So basically, my first ever professional goal was for Crystal Palace against QPR.
And
I scuffed it in the back. It was a bad goal, but it was my first goal. So to be sat with Sharon Stone and to be hugging and smelling, probably I would say Sharon Stone. Just.
Okay. I'm asking about it all of my guests, and it's 4 of a kind, so 4 aces from Premier League, 1 keeper, 1 defender, 1 midfielder, and 1
easy,
and 1 forward. The best for you
now
on
this
that
season?
position?
This season
No, not this season.
Ever?
Ever, yeah.
Oh wow!
In Premier League.
The best ever Premier League goalkeeper. Well, you're talking of Schmeichel will be up there. You're talking about Petr Cech at his very best, but I probably would say David De Gea.
David De Gea.
Just slightly above Schmeichel. Schmeichel was exceptional. The big star-shaped dive when he came out.
And won more trophies probably.
And won more trophies, to be fair. Won the European Cup, so maybe I should say Schmeichel. But some of the saves that I've seen David De Gea make, I've never seen any goalkeeper ever make. I mean, his reflexes are incredible.
Yeah.
I'll put them as joint one. I'll give them both. 2 Manchester United goalkeepers. Best defender in Premier League history. I'll give you a few names. Gary Neville as a right back. Again, Bruce, Pallister, Rio Ferdinand. You would put in there. You'd put John Terry in there for sure.
But you have to go for one only.
One only. One defender only. So again, let's look at trophies won. They'd have to have won the Champions League. So that would be John Terry, that would be Rio Ferdinand, that would be Nemanja Vidic. Jamie Carragher, of course, would be probably in there as well. I'm going to say Rio Ferdinand because he wasn't just a very good defender. He read the game very well, and he also
scored goals
sometimes and won the big trophy. So Rio Ferdinand is defender. Midfielder, starting from the very beginning, 1992, the latter years of Brian Robson, right the way up till, again, Frank Lampard, goal-scoring midfielder, Paul Scholes, Steven Gerrard, no-brainer. Everybody would probably say, if you looked at trophies, Scholes or Lampard, but Steven Gerrard. Steven Gerrard could have played for that Manchester United team and made them even better than Scholes did. He could have gone to that Chelsea team, which he nearly did, and made that Chelsea team better than they were. He was the difference between Liverpool winning the second half of the game in Istanbul and then going on to win the European Cup. An incredible turnaround. Steven Gerrard, by quite some distance as well.
And the last
striker, again, let's put some strikers in the mix. Alan Shearer, who scored the most goals. You're looking at players like Dennis Bergkamp, Zola, Didier Drogba, latterly Harry Kane, Mo Salah, you'd throw into the mix. But out and out number 9, goal-scoring striker that scored goals and broke records, Alan Shearer. I don't particularly like him as a person. I'll be perfectly honest. I think he's a bit of a. I won't say it, and he thinks the same of me. But I know a good striker when I see it, and he was brutally ruthless in front of goal, with Didier Drogba slightly behind him.
He's got a good shot conversion, yeah?
Yes, and Drogba won a lot of trophies. He was a match-winning goals in big games, Champions Leagues, FA Cups notoriously. So he always scored a lot of goals in big games.
So they have Schmeichel, Rio Ferdinand, Steven Gerrard and Alan Shearer.
So yeah.
This is your
It's
team.
not bad little four
Oh,
aside.
No, yeah.
I think
no,
we could probably put a better four aside together. Me, you, Thomas down there, and one of the cameramen.
Maybe.
We'd probably come up good against those guys.
Okay, and that's it. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. So this is the Polski Angliski breakfast.
Śniadanie po polsku.
Okay. Well, I've enjoyed it.
English
Hope you
breakfast.
invite me back someday soon.
Stan Collymore był waszym i moim gościem. Jak słyszeliście, jest to człowiek, który ma dosyć dużo do powiedzenia na temat Premier Ligi Angielskiej piłki. Moglibyśmy pewnie rozmawiać 10 kolejnych godzin i to by nam się nie znudziło, ale gość musi już uciekać z powrotem do Anglii. Dziękujemy bardzo. To wszystko na dzisiaj. Do zobaczenia w kolejnych produkcjach.